I've been searching for my favorite bracelet for days now, and I can't shake the suspicion that my mother-in-law might have taken it without asking. This isn't the first time either. She has a habit of helping herself to my things without permission, and it always leaves me feeling violated. My husband, Richard, trying to defuse the situation, says, "It was a gift from your mom, just let it go." His constant defense of her, even when she's clearly in the wrong, is maddening. It feels like he never stands up for me, and it only makes things harder. But then, something far worse happened. Richard's beloved luxury car was stolen, and I know exactly who took it. My name is Julie, and I'm 30 years old. Up until recently, my life with Richard had been perfect. We'd just celebrated our first wedding anniversary, and things seemed blissfully settled until everything changed. We both work, but I usually finish my tasks early and start dinner while I wait for Richard to come home. One evening, he came through the door with unexpected news. His mother would be moving in with us indefinitely after the recent death of his father. She was lonely and needed to be closer to us as she got older. "Wait, she's moving in?" I asked, struggling to process the sudden change. Richard nodded, his expression unreadable. "Yes, she's feeling isolated. She needs us now more than ever." I felt the weight of the news sink in. "But you should have talked to me about this first. We have our own lives, shouldn't we consider it carefully?" Despite my concerns, Richard gave a small shrug, a sign he had already made up his mind. "It's not a big deal, she just wants to feel safe and secure. I get that she's lonely, but this is a huge decision. We should have discussed it first," I pressed, trying to make him see how unfair this was. Richard sighed, clearly irritated. "Why do I have to explain everything to you, Julie?" "Because she's your mom, not mine," I replied, the frustration building. "I'm the one who has to rearrange everything, our lives, our home. Why aren't you considering how I feel?" Richard's tone hardened. "It's already decided, just deal with it." I stood there, stunned by his dismissal. He turned away and walked out of the room without another word, leaving me to stew in my own frustration. How could he make such a major decision without even consulting me? It didn't matter how I felt. My needs were secondary. Richard rarely helps around the house, and dismisses any concerns I have about the disruption. To him, it's just no big deal. It's his mother, after all. True to form, the following week, my mother-in-law arrived as though she had lived here all along. I might have been more accepting of the situation if she weren't so rude and condescending. Every encounter with her left me feeling drained. She made it clear from the moment she stepped in that I wasn't her equal, and now I had to live under her roof. The first day, she didn't waste any time making her presence known. "Julie, did you know I was coming today? There's trash in the corner," she said, her voice sharp. "I'm sorry, I was busy working and didn't have time to clean," I explained. Excuses, excuses. Couldn't you have done it after work? But then I wouldn't have had time to cook dinner." "Oh, please, how do you even manage being Richard's wife? You should be more efficient," she snapped. I bit back my frustration, offering a shaky apology, feeling more and more overwhelmed. She had barely been here 15 minutes, and I already felt like I was suffocating. As the days passed, her controlling behavior only worsened. She was constantly criticizing me, making it impossible to feel at ease in my own home. Every small thing I did seemed wrong in her eyes, and the tension built to a breaking point. Then, one day, something unexpected happened. I came home from work to find her greeting me with an almost unnerving smile. "Welcome home," she said cheerfully, which caught me off guard. As I hung up my coat, something shiny caught my eye. There was a necklace around her neck. "Wait," I said, stepping closer. "Is that my necklace?" The familiar design made my heart skip a beat. Anxiety washed over me as I hurried to my bedroom to check my jewelry box. Sure enough, it was missing. I returned to the living room and confronted her, trying to keep my composure. "That necklace, it's mine, isn't it?" I asked, my voice tight. She looked up at me, a smirk playing at the corners of her mouth. "Oh, you noticed. It looks better on me, don't you think?" Her response hit me like a slap in the face. I was speechless for a moment. "Please, stop taking my things without asking. It's not right," I said, my frustration finally bubbling over. She waved me off dismissively. "What's the big deal? It's just a necklace. Stop complaining and get dinner ready. Richard will be home soon." I tried to focus on dinner, but her continued interference only added to my mounting stress. That night, I knew I had to talk to Richard about it. "Hey, Richard, can we talk?" I asked as he walked in. "What's up?" he asked, his voice casual. "Today, I found your mom wearing my necklace. She didn't ask for my permission," I said, trying to stay calm. Richard raised an eyebrow. "So, she went into your room, opened your jewelry box, and just took it? Are you sure you're not overreacting?" "I'm not overreacting," I replied, my patience fraying. "This is exactly what happened." "Come on, I'm sure Mom didn't mean any harm," Richard said, brushing off the situation as if it were nothing. I felt a surge of anger at his immediate defense of her. Trying to stay calm, I took a deep breath and pressed on, hoping he'd understand. "So, It's okay for her to just walk into my room and take my things without asking? I shot back. A normal person would at least apologize when they take something that isn't theirs. Richard shrugged. Well, she probably just saw something she liked and grabbed it. But honestly, that's not the issue here. Richard, you need to talk to her about respecting my space. Telling her off won't change anything, he replied, his tone dismissive. But you're her son, maybe she'll listen to you. I insisted, my frustration mounting. You need to handle this. Fine, he muttered, rolling his eyes. I'll talk to her. But despite his reluctant agreement, the conversation seemed to have left his mind by the next morning. Over breakfast, I shot him a few pointed glares, but he didn't mention it to his mother. As the days went by, my mother-in-law began treating my belongings like they were hers to borrow at will. My complaints were ignored, and without locks on any of the doors, confronting her seemed pointless unless she decided to change her behavior on her own. I could already feel my things slipping away, and if this continued, I feared they would vanish permanently. I needed a plan to stop her. Then one day, something happened that I couldn't overlook. I had plans to meet a friend, and I wanted to wear my late mother's bracelet, something I had kept hidden in a secret compartment in my desk, far from the jewelry box, but it was gone. The only person who could have taken it was my mother-in-law. I marched into the living room and confronted her directly. Where's my bracelet? I demanded, my voice sharp. She barely looked up from what she was doing. Oh, the bracelet? I just borrowed it, she said casually, as though it were no big deal. No, I snapped. Give it back now. My heart was pounding in my chest. This wasn't just a bracelet, it was a connection to my mother. Something irreplaceable. I need it back immediately. I can't do that, she replied coolly. Why not? I asked, my mind racing. Because I sold it, she answered, as if it were the most ordinary thing in the world. I stood frozen, my mouth dry. What, you sold it? Are you kidding me? My hands were shaking, but I tried to stay calm. Stop messing around and give it back. I'm not joking, she said with a shrug. By the way, most of the stuff I've borrowed from you, I've sold those too. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My world seemed to tilt as I stared at her in disbelief. Before I could say anything else, Richard, who had just woken up, walked into the room. I quickly explained the situation, my voice trembling with a mixture of anger and shock. Richard, listen to this, I said, forcing myself to stay calm. Your mom sold my bracelet, the one that belonged to my late mother, and she's been selling off everything she's borrowed from me without asking. Richard's face shifted from confusion to disbelief. Is that true? He asked, looking at his mother, his voice a mix of shock and anger. My mother-in-law stuck out her tongue, as though the situation were some kind of joke. I'm on a fixed income, you know, she said with a shrug. I didn't want to be a burden, but I can't make ends meet without a little extra cash. I stared at her, incredulous. You've got to be kidding me. Who gave you the right to take and sell my things? Don't get so upset, she said, trying to downplay it. I didn't mean any harm. If you didn't mean any harm, you wouldn't be selling other people's things. I shot back, my patience evaporating. She opened her mouth to say something, but I cut her off. Where did you sell it? You need to get it back right now. I demanded. Where is my bracelet? You need to give it back right now. Just then, Richard shouted. Enough is enough. To my shock, he wasn't directing his anger at his mother. Instead, he was glaring at me, confused and hurt. I asked, why are you yelling at me, Richard? Your mom took my bracelet without asking. Be quiet, he snapped. I did it for mom. Stop complaining. For mom? Seriously? Why should I give up my things just to make her happy? My voice was rising, frustration spilling over. Because it makes mom happy, Richard said, his tone cold. She's your mother-in-law. Show some respect and just do as you're told. I stood there, speechless, my mind racing. How could he not see how unfair this was? How could he expect me to simply hand over my belongings for his mother's comfort? The whole situation felt impossible to bear. I couldn't handle it anymore, his mother constantly stealing from me, and Richard always siding with her. It was like I didn't even matter. That's it. If you won't take this seriously, then maybe we should just get a divorce. My voice was thick with emotion, my breaking point finally reached. Stop joking about divorce, Richard retorted, dismissing me. I'm not joking, Richard, I'm dead serious, I shot back, my resolve hardening. Fine, whatever, I'll get the divorce papers today, he said, his voice laced with annoyance. Fine, if that's what you want, I'm okay with it, I responded, equally resolute. As we stood there in tense silence, I noticed a satisfied smirk tugging at the corners of his mother's mouth. It hit me all at once, she had never liked me. Her real goal was to drive me out, to secure the house for herself and her son. That night, Richard returned home with the divorce papers already filled out. After signing them, I began packing my things. I didn't know when I would leave, but I was preparing for it. The next day, during my lunch break at work, I saw multiple missed calls from my sister, Megan, who lived nearby. A sense of dread washed over me as I immediately called her back. Megan, what's going on? I asked, my voice tight with concern. It's true, she said, her tone urgent. I took a picture, I'll send it to you now, so you can see for yourself. Okay, I'll check it, I replied, trying to stay calm. After hanging up, I waited for the photo, the evidence that could expose my mother-in-law's lies. That evening, as I was preparing dinner, Richard rushed into the kitchen, panic written all over his face. Julie, this is bad. My car, my prized car, it's gone. Wow, that's serious, but why aren't you more upset? I asked, confused by his sudden accusatory tone. You've wanted that car forever, we're still paying off the loan, where could it have gone? Don't tell me, Julie, did you take it? His words hit like a slap, the suspicion in his voice piercing. Of course not, Richard, I have my own car, I retorted, my frustration boiling over. I couldn't believe he was accusing me, but then I looked over at his mother, who quickly averted her gaze. The smallest action spoke volumes. Richard, I think your mom knows something about this, I said, my voice steady but full of tension. Why would my mom know anything about it? He asked, clearly confused. I turned to my mother-in-law, who had gone pale. What do you know about the car, exactly? Julie, what are you talking about? How is my mom involved? Richard asked, still trying to make sense of everything. Well, I got a call from Megan today, I explained. She was shopping and saw your mom driving your car. It's hard to miss. It's a rare, blue model. Megan even recognized the license plate. Richard's eyes went wide as he turned to his mother, fury beginning to build. Wait, what? He demanded. My mother-in-law stammered. No, Richard, I just borrowed it for a bit. Borrowed? Are you serious? I've told you 100 times not to touch that car. Richard's anger flared. I'm sorry, but I really wanted to drive it, she said sheepishly. Well, what did you do with the car? Did you leave it somewhere? Richard pressed, trying to piece together the puzzle. No, not exactly, she muttered nervously. I left the keys in the ignition. Maybe someone from the neighborhood took it. Stolen? Are you kidding? Richard's voice was incredulous. I swear, I drove it all the way home, she insisted, trying to sound convincing. I couldn't stay silent. I showed Richard the photo Megan had sent me. Is this why you're lying? I asked, showing the picture of my mother-in-law behind the wheel of a badly damaged luxury car. Megan sent this just in case you wrecked the car and couldn't drive it back. No, that's not what happened, she stammered, cornered by the evidence. Where is the car now? Richard demanded, his patience snapping. Richard was practically shaking with rage as he stared down his mother. You wrecked my car, and now what? You just give it back? Calm down, Richard, she said, trying to calm him, but it was clear she was losing control. How am I supposed to stay calm? You're the one who's paying for the repairs, Richard snapped, his anger rising with every word. But then his mother dropped the bombshell. That's not possible, I've already sold the car, she confessed, her voice a mixture of guilt and deflection. Sold it? Are you serious? That car is in my name, Richard exclaimed, his shock evident as disbelief surged through him. I found a dealer, he said they buy any car, he told me I could even sell it on someone else's behalf, so, I sold it for $5,500, she admitted, her tone trembling. Richard's face drained of color. The luxury car he had cherished for years, something that could have easily fetched hundreds of thousands, had been sold for a mere $5,500. His mother had been taken advantage of by a shady dealer, selling it for a fraction of its worth, likely because she didn't know the true value. When Richard fully understood the extent of the damage, his fury exploded. He yelled at his mother in a way I'd never seen before. Are you kidding me? Do you have any idea how much that car meant to me? I'm sorry, Richard, I'll give you the $5,500, please, forgive me, his mother pleaded, her voice filled with regret. $5,500 isn't even close to enough. Get out. Richard's voice turned cold and commanding. He pushed her toward the door, locking it behind her once she left. Turning to me, his anger quickly turned to exhaustion, and he sank into a chair. I never thought Mom could cause so much trouble. I'm sorry I didn't support you sooner, he admitted, his voice filled with defeat. Finally, you get it, I replied, a small sense of relief washing over me. But now that she's gone, I need to move on. We can't go back. No, we won't, I said, my voice firm. I want a divorce. Richard's face went white. He stumbled toward me, bewildered. Wait, I already kicked Mom out. Why do you want a divorce now? Don't you see? I said, my voice shaking with frustration. It's not just about her anymore. This is about you, Richard. You've consistently sided with her over me, and it's not fair. I've had enough. You're being too harsh, Richard countered, clearly stunned by my resolve. That's rich coming from you, I shot back. When I needed you, you chose her every time. You cared more about her comfort than our marriage. That's where my feelings for you have gone, just like they've soured for her. Julie, please, just calm down. Think about this, Richard pleaded, his voice tinged with panic. No, Richard, this situation exists because of your choices. You put her above us, above me, and the car? It's just a consequence of your actions. You deserve this, I said, my anger thick and unrelenting. You really think that? Fine, he snapped, bitterness creeping in. I hope you enjoy the mortgage and car payments. You've earned every bit of it. With those words, I grabbed my packed bags and headed out the door. There was no more need for words, no more need for reasoning. I was done. I went straight to City Hall, filed for divorce, and severed all ties with Richard, deleting his contact information from my phone. Later, I confronted my mother-in-law, demanding compensation for selling my belongings without permission. She reluctantly agreed, though I knew this wouldn't undo the damage done. As Richard struggled with the aftermath, buried in debt and regret, I embraced my newfound freedom. The weight of his choices was now his to bear. I moved into a small apartment near work, enjoying the peace and independence I had longed for. With my finances finally in my control, I reveled in the simple joy of a new life. Today, I even planned to drive to the beach, feeling the sand beneath my feet, knowing I was free to live life on my own terms. This was my fresh start, and I was determined to make the most of it.